Why is Venezuela about to spark the largest war in South America in nearly 30 years? On December 3rd, 2023, the Venezuelan government held a referendum on the country's long-standing territorial dispute with its neighbor Guyana. The results showed that 98% of voters backed Venezuela's bid to annex a shocking 70% of Guyana's territory. And while it's almost certain that the referendum itself was fake, the ongoing military buildup on Guyana's border is very real. Much of the media focuses on the diplomatic efforts to avert war, while ignoring the far darker reason why Venezuela's government is pushing for South America's first war in almost 3 decades. So, how did this diplomatic crisis pop up seemingly overnight, and why on earth is Venezuela reviving a nearly 200-year-old dispute with Guyana? You see, after gaining independence from Spain, Venezuela inherited a border dispute with the British colony of Guyana. Once gold was discovered in the region in the 1870s, relations between the two deteriorated, culminating in Venezuela severing relations with the UK. After a diplomatic crisis flared up in 1895, both countries agreed to peacefully settle the issue through an international tribunal in Paris. And in 1899, that tribunal awarded 90% of the contested territory to British Guyana, including all of the gold mines. You're going to want to remember that point for later. Now, this should have been the end of the story, but there was a catch. Venezuela rejected the results of the Paris tribunal after learning that the British might have bribed the judges to side with them. But while Venezuela maintains that the Paris Award of 1899 is invalid, they spent the next 60 years honoring it. Until now. Many have asked why Venezuela's socialist government is reviving a dispute which has laid dormant for decades. After all, virtually the entire world had forgotten about the controversy over the Paris Award, including the Venezuela government itself. During a visit to Guyana in 2004, Hugo Chavez even declared that the border dispute was over. But over the last decade, Chavez's socialist successor, Nicolas Maduro, has brought the dispute back to the forefront of Venezuelan politics. International observers claim that the crisis is flaring up again over new oil deposits that have been discovered in the territorial waters off the disputed zone. But remember those gold mines from the 1870s? You see, Venezuela has already known the region was rich for more than a century, and yet it never invaded before or even after the British left Guyana in 1966. And this tiny detail reveals a far darker reason why the dispute could finally erupt into a full-scale war after more than 200 years. Because Venezuela's government may be using the entire crisis to distract from an even greater scandal back at home, its collapsing economy. Because after decades of socialist rule, Venezuela is on the brink of total collapse. Inflation stands at more than 300%, and that's actually down from the more than 100,000% it was in 2018. The store shelves are empty thanks to years of government price controls and expropriation of private businesses. Crime is spiraling out of control, making Venezuela the murder capital of South America. And the country's once famed oil industry has been completely destroyed after years of reckless government mismanagement and corruption. By virtually every metric you can think of, Venezuela has become a nightmare. And it's this record of abysmal failure that's driving the new crisis with Guyana. Because Venezuela's socialist government has seemingly adopted the old mantra of corrupt governments everywhere, namely, that war abroad is peace at home.